Hello. Well, I have an interesting journal for you this time. And it's it covers predators and things like that. And so I thought about using this guy, but I don't think it portrays sharks even very nicely. So how about this little guy instead? I think this is better. So, you eat, you get eaten. Whatever. It's just a body, remember. All right, now, the chimes that you hear are mental focus and clarity chimes, even though they sound like the other ones. There's a different energy in behind them. Okay, this is the one that I promised. It's Unplugged 3, where Spirit tricked me. I had no idea when I was going into this that it was going to go where it was going, or that it would be in the Unplugged series. So let me share it with you. It's from 5/1 May Day of 2011. The second one of that day, the Mayan day, was 2 Lord, Light, or Sun. And just as an aside, why is it that when pilots get in trouble, they shout, "Mayday, Mayday"? What's with Mayday? Anybody knows, comment me, so I'll know too. Okay, this is radical new angle on dog eat dog, man eat cow life. Some ET perspectives. And like I said, warning, this is it gets difficult to listen to, so be in your heart. All right. This is not a journal exactly, not in the way they have been at least. This is me working out or through what I can of a particular inquiry, which is this: what motivates the ETs, the ones channeling and working with mankind? What are they after? What are their desires and intentions vis-a-vis us? Initially, and rightly, one can see that it is clearly in their best interests, the benevolent ones, for us to do well, to transcend, to ascend in frequency and dimension and all of that, for all life is one. Fractally, holographically, we are not in the least bit separate. Therefore, what happens to us happens to them in that instant as well. We're all one like that. And those of us awake enough to be aware of this practice the golden rule. Initially, yes. And I have experienced this, so I know it is real and not just metaphysical mumbo-jumbo. It is a literal fact that I am my brother, period. On some very real and experiential or experienceable level, this is the case. So there's that. Yet, that is like saying, as I often do in the midst of a video journal, that all is one. Now, that doesn't necessarily relate to being what is said very directly. Sometimes it's tangential. For most of mankind right now, it is basically always tangential. They don't have the direct experience to be able to recognize and accept this oneness as fact yet. So, while it's both accurate and applicable on some level, that doesn't answer the question very well. Why not? Both we and these entities, these ED or ET beings, are not currently functioning at the level of that oneness. Therefore, to get what I'm after, I have to step down deeper into the game, the play, into lower dimensions than the fullness of our ultimate oneness. So, moving on. Heck, at this time-space point, I can't even be sure who is benevolent, who is not. We know the ones that present themselves that way, sure, but we're making a lot of assumptions all the time in thinking about them and dealing with them. Let's be aware and let's be cautious of that. Just as for instance, take the Cassiopeians as they speak through Laura Knight Jadzik. Who are they, really? If we listen to the Andromedans in what they've shared through Alex Collier, a pretty reliable source, both Collier and those beings, at least some beings from Cassiopeia are insectoid, the praying mantis type. Now, these are flesh-eating beings, so it pays to be cautious here. What and who do they eat? Now, again, if we look at our star here, we have many different life forms in even our solar system, much less our galaxy. When we say Pleiadians, in a way, that's a joke. I mean, the Pleiades are the seven sisters, right? There's 7 stars there. Now imagine how many planets and how many different strains of life there are. So let's not be too simplistic in thinking that Pleiadian or Cassiopeian means anything in particular. That being said, I'll move on here. Now, I know it will gross many out, but I don't care right now. I'm working this out for myself. Don't even know if I'll share it at all. So it's just a plain fact that there are groups and races of beings that dine on mankind. We provide that kind of support or sustenance for them, and this is no joke. There are areas where women are captive and nothing more than breeding stock. It's the children they like to eat, apparently. Some of these breeding programs go on right here on Earth, underground. Told you it was gross. But again, I didn't think I was talking for public consumption here. Okay, back to the journal. Now, lest any think this is too terribly gross and beneath them, please consider, how is this different from what we do with livestock? Do we not breed both cattle and sheep and, hey, also pigs to dine on their young? Even on them? How is this different, pray tell? It's an exact replica, at least externally, on some level, of just what we do to other forms of life than our own. Yeah, let that sink in. Thanks, Source, we're migrating up in consciousness, in frequency, out of this dog-eat-dog world we've been living in for so long. It's been nasty in this and so many ways. Life killing life to live or prolong life. Doesn't make much sense, does it? I don't think so. I don't care for it at all, nor do so many who are rising up with me. And that's a thing of the past already for so many of us. That just remains to manifest out fully in the 3D world so that no more life is slaughtered to feed other life. Yes, we are a more advanced form of life at the soul or spirit level than the animals. Maybe also the physical level, but that is less certain. Anyway, it doesn't matter because we've gone on the carnivorous way that we have been based, it doesn't matter because we've gone on the carnivorous way that we have, based on a mountain of assumptions that we simply don't question, or even acknowledge. Thus, the whole conceptual structure is suspect. I don't trust any part of it. Much careful self-inquiry is required at each stage and by each one on this topic. Life, eating life. I mean, stop and consider. We see a nice, neat little package in the grocery, and it's got flesh in it. If we saw the whole chain of what happened to bring that to us, trust me, we'd feel differently about it. Okay. 4, we do not know at all what the consciousness of the sheep or the cow, the animal, is like. What is their potential for growth and advancement? How would we know? We just assume, making ignorant fools of ourselves in the process. Once we realize this, we don't really know what we're doing in this. We've just taken the societal structure, the raising and eating of meat, for granted as right and proper. We let those who went before us make this decision for us. We just accept it, whole hog. Not very wise. Not very awakened, anyway. We don't even know how to communicate or commune with these creatures yet, most of us. We haven't asked them the first thing about the whole process, what their desires are in the midst of it. Don't you think they deserve a voice in this before their execution? What fools we are to go forward blindly killing life this way. It is amazing. Nothing less. It's just unexamined in most of us. So, all of this as a roundabout way to get to the point. Some of these races, these ET races, see dinner when they look at us. That would be their motivation for whatever they do and say. That bears keeping in mind. As the cookbook in the old show said, to serve man all my days. Be still with this. I feel some disturbance. So you see, when we look at a child, we see the soul there, and we see the beauty of that being, the tremendous potential for advancement, for awakening, for shining. And so that's what makes it so gross to us to think of children being raised as meat. We see the potential in the child, but we don't see the potential, do we, in the animals that we treat this way. So, in a way, yes, I really am saying we're no better than they are. It's just a different level of the same act, the same unthinking kind of behavior. That's what I'm pointing out here, is the thoughtlessness, the thoughtless unkindness. It's not evil so much, folks. It's just not being awake. As Jesus said from the cross, it's ignorance. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Okay, back to this journal. So, beneath whatever persona or front these ET or ED groups of beings would put forth, and by that I mean extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional, beneath whatever persona would be their desire to shepherd us into conditions and situations that suit their aims. And for some, to dine on human bodies is the end point. Now, how does mankind process and handle beef, veal, and pork? We package it, ship it to stores, and sell it, right? Well, keep considering along these lines. No doubt there are some beings whose concern is just that, to process and package our bodies for shipping and sale to other carnivorous beings. Please be in heart get over being grossed out by that as quickly as you can. It's just basic reason and logic, quite impartial at that. Remember, they're just bodies that we wear. They're not us anyway. Okay, you see, we are the microcosm of that. What we do and how we do it, we can look to be mirrored back to us by the life that we see. And these days, that begins to include the extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional races of beings that have been working in secrecy in the background for so very long. Well, let's take it a step further for those who can take the journey. Let's look at our attitude to the earth. We consider ourselves to be the dominant species here, don't we? And we act like that, certainly. That's our basic attitude. This is our home, and we'll do what we like with it. Well, that's another nasty attitude based on another mountain of assumptions most of us haven't inquired into as yet. It's just another belief system we've adopted whole from those who went before us, from the past. It was handed down to us by our ancestors, and so we ran with it. Well, let's start taking a closer look, as many of us are already. There are other beings who live on or in this planet who know that it is rightfully theirs. Had you run into that yet? Had you considered that? Just as we look at the ants and all insect life as inconsequential to what we want to do with the earth, wiping them out when they get in the way, so we are looked at by some other races. Does that surprise you? It's all fractal, you know. There are beings who predate man's presence on the earth by perhaps billions of years or more. They were here first, and they know it. And their technology and advancement so far outstrips our own as to make us look like imbeciles. Not even children who could learn. They put up with our presence on Earth, little more. To them, we are as unimportant as one or another species of bird or toad is to us. Nice, maybe, but not terribly important. Nothing you consult. I see now that this journal, instead of what I thought it was when I began it, is another in the Unplugged series. And this one will come as quite a shock compared to just unplugging from time or such things. This involves our beliefs and attitudes about mankind in relation to other species of life. We think we're the top of the pyramid. Many will be quite surprised to find out that we are not. It depends entirely on perspective, what perspective or whose you take. We're learning to let go of a whole way of viewing the human race, a view and an attitude that we swallowed whole from those in the past, remember, who passed it down to us. Time to unplug. Take another look. Let's step back and reconsider. Get a new light, a new angle on things. All we're doing here is learning to look at life from a perspective similar to what our cattle or sheep might perceive. We've been taken down a notch and shown in the mirror of life our own reflection, our own image, how we treat other life forms, and maybe even some of the karma for that. Do we like what we see? Well, of course not. Sometimes our unplugging will be fairly gross, like this. It will be shocking. But That's the price we pay for our unconscious ways of living, of being, all these centuries. Taking everything passed down to us, all the values, ideas, ethics, and morals as right, taking them on as our own, and acting in consonance with them. We do all this without a thought. We are told something, and we simply accept and believe as children. Well, that's the way it was. Clearly, in our awakening, that is no more. We don't choose a future like that anymore. We've begun to inquire into all of these things and so many more. We are finally becoming conscious beings, waking up. Well, there's a price for that. It's not really the price for being conscious. It's the price we pay for having been unconscious for so darn long. Mind-numbed robots is really an apt description of our Western society, more than any other one, in some ways. So let's close with this. Look in your mind at a stockyard, at a cattle pen. Look at the way the live beings there are herded and treated. And now look at us. Have we not been herded and treated in ways that got us to be mind-numbed robots? Was that not in the best interests of those doing the herding? Just like we keep the cattle in ignorance of what's coming for them, so we've been handled the same way. We've been dumbed down and gotten into a very docile, compliant state and kept that way for millennia. And it's been going on a lot longer than that. Just compare today's cow to the wild Texas longhorn steer, and you'll get a good comparison of what we've done to our cattle. It's just the same thing that has happened to us. The wild steer is cagey, independent, not easily caught. He'll fight for his freedom. He's wise. He'll find a way out of traps or pens. He was too smart, independent, and alert. Now, please forgive me for being perhaps the first one to present this to you this way. But we are no different than Angus or Hereford cows. The mind-numbed robotic one that does pretty much what's expected of it, what it's told and herded into doing. Well, that's been us, my friends. We are no more these days the fine, rowdy, rangy longhorn cow out on the range, free and determined to stay that way, to run with our own kind. We've been separated out, branded, given shots, fed a carefully calculated diet and other things planned out by those who own us. That's through their perspective, my friends. Don't be afraid to entertain it. Remember, in heart, there is no fear, not one bit. Besides, whatever it is, this too shall pass, you know. And their day has come. Those who are and have been controlling the herd that is mankind. Their time of ascendance is over. Finally, we shout. Though the mass of us is still sleeping and compliant pretty much. So many are waking up now that it's coming apart at the seams for them. Their carefully tended stockyards and prisons, whose bars we were not able to even see. Well, we're seeing them now, and we're not afraid. We're not impressed much. We need to be at least a bit respectful of the advancement of these races, their sheer ability to deceive. Ignorant brashness will get us nowhere but hurting or gone. So, be in heart with this whole thing. And that's my challenge, my invitation to you. This was way more shocking than I would have made it were I writing a journal for public consumption, which I didn't think I was doing. Well, that's not what I set out to do anyway. So I guess it was meant to be rather harsh, since higher self got around the guards I'd put up against shocking you. Didn't even really know I had them up, those guards, but obviously so. Look at how higher self had to trick me to get this in writing. It's pretty funny, really. Can you see that? I hope so. Have a good laugh at my expense. Remember, don't take things too seriously here in 3D. They are not that serious. We're here for the challenge and, more than that, to have fun. Remember, joy is always accessible. Even in the midst of this or anything, joy is there. The other side of that coin. Will you plug in? Well, that's up to you.